Hello and good evening. I'm Melisa Idris. Welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. Malaysia's destination islands are facing a growing challenge that can no longer be ignored: unsustainable waste management. Now, it threatens not only the environment, but also the health of local communities and the future of tourism in Malaysia. So, will the tourism industry and local authorities step up to save Malaysia's destination islands from this growing waste crisis? Or are we already seeing irreversible change? Joining us now is Adjunct Professor Anthony Wong, who is Managing Director at Frangipani Resort and Spa in Langkawi. He's also a sustainability expert in wastewater and a technical advisory member of UNDP's Council on Sustainable Tourism. Professor Anthony, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Maybe we can begin with you sharing a little bit about the scale of the problem at the moment. I mean, what are the challenges that destination islands like Langkawi face when it comes to waste management?
Okay. We purchased our property 19 years ago in Langkawi. My goal was to make it the greenest hotel in the world and a green hotel school, because there's no such thing. Yeah. So generally, all the waste, either you go to dump site, yeah, and the wastewater goes into the sea. We were in Redang last month. 80% of the coral has died because of wastewater, besides climate change. Now, if you look at the dump site today in Langkawi, it is like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It should not be 5-story tall. It's now 5-story tall. And the incinerator doesn't work. Now, we all know 50% of waste dump is waste food. Now, if they are dedicated, waste food is a resource. You could convert it to compost for organic farming. Not complicated. And the latest technology, you can actually make it to high end by feeding it, attracting black soldier fly, and that is 43% protein. You can feed it the maggots to the chicken and duck. And also, sometimes I feed this maggot to my friends. I call them land prawns. Yeah. So there's no waste food if you look at it as a resource. Now, The other thing is, it's plastic. Plastic is everywhere. Yeah. Of course, this is depending on the government policy. For us, we still have to have the plastic, but we collect it, and there is a collector to collect it, and they bring it to Penang, and they upcycle it to, copper, to containers, dustbin. So you got to have waste separation.
All right. Professor, if I may just jump in very quickly. When you talk about recycling, plastic, if we look at plastic and we talk about recycling, how feasible is that as a solution on islands in particular? Because there are logistical challenges, it makes it far more expensive to recycle. Are there alternatives? Is it a feasible solution?
Partly you upcycle. Like, for example, we use all our chlorine container as dustbin. Now, chlorine container is very tough material. So I made them to paper, glass, metal, food, and they have lasted me 19 years. I don't have to pay. There are certain things you can reuse it. And we also use container for growing food. This is urban farming. So it's up to you to think creativity. Yeah. Then paper is very easy. Paper we just collect. We get to the recycle company, and they get paid, and money goes back to our staff welfare. Now we have a lot of wood. Island have wood. Now I have a lot of coconut trunks. I use that to bait termites. We are on 11 acres property, lots of termite. We use them to bait termites because they like soft wood. And then some of the wood that has in my property, I make them furniture. Worst come to worst, I also collect driftwood. Whatever wood I cannot use, I convert them to charcoal. I don't have to buy charcoal. I make biochar. Yeah. Now,
Right.
talk about
It's
metal. Metals are there's a value. So if you have the metal, I mean, our old fridge, I turn it around, stainless steel. I make table out of it in my farm.
right. So Professor, so you're sharing all the kind of sustainability efforts that Frangipani is has been doing for many years now. How does it differ from the maybe less sustainable practices of other hotel operators? And my question also is what is the responsibility of tourism players when you think about how much waste is generated from tourism? Is there an onus on the tourism industry to address the waste problem?
Yes, there is necessary because because of climate change, we're going to pay carbon tax. And if people follow this system, I'm the secretary of hotel owners. I've been teaching green hotel program. I developed the ASEAN Green Hotel program in 2016, and we share this with everybody how to save. We don't talk about it, how to save. So if you can look at it, how to save, and then now all the international big brand compulsory they have to be certified green, or else guests would not come and stay with you. But in the Asian market, the Malaysian market has been very challenging because they don't understand sustainability. And I have water tank all over my property. I have 500,000 liter, 125. And you get people from the village say, "Oh, your hotel like a village. You got water tank, and like my house, I got water tank." So Malaysians do not understand sustainability. So we need to
So
educate them.
when you say Malaysians don't understand sustainability, is it the Malaysian industry, tourism industry players, or Malaysian tourists?
Malaysian tourists, the
Okay.
less from the villages. Yeah. So now we have got major issue. Okay, those are solid waste. Yeah, solid waste. I will go to dump site. Then we have got scheduled waste, which is mixed oil, chemical, and biggest problem is wastewater, sewage water, dirty water, oily water. Now this is what I specialize in. I've developed a system to treat any polluted water, especially wastewater, using microbes and water plant. I can clean it to class 1. Yeah, drinking water standard almost using microbe, no energy. So it's a carbon sink, and it took me 27 years of research. It was approved in 2017, and the 12 Malaysia plan recognizes 2021-25 and is act of parliament that you can use constructed wetland to treat wastewater. So we have got 40 million from MOF to build wetland to treat inner water discharge and all the grey water of Pantai Tengah and half of Chenang. So we are
Okay.
very lucky because all tourist sites popular around the region, you actually bathe in dirty
Oh,
water, smelly water.
oh
So
gosh.
MOF thinking ahead for the country has allocated that amount because of land issue. They're only starting in 2025, but already allocated. So wastewater, and we are doing a project. I'm doing a project with UNDP to treat the wastewater of Redang Island, 5 hotels.
Professor, so talk to me about the role of local governments then. Clearly, you are taking the initiative to treat wastewater that is not just from your from your resort but also elsewhere. What is the role of local governments? Shouldn't they be thinking about creating more infrastructure for this?
Is an issue. Yeah, even though Parliament approve, but local authority they don't understand. They don't allow you. In fact, even the water authority, they do not accept it. Even Parliament say approve, Minister of Environment approve. So it takes a long time to filter through. But what is important is we have to educate the local authority on new technology. Yeah, and they have to have enforcement. Like we pay 3 ringgit, we are legal, we are properly registered hotel. We pay 3 ringgit, we pay 10 ringgit tax per night, but many illegal Airbnb and hotels are out there without paying anything. So you need cost to maintain cleanliness. But if they are illegal, then they just don't care. Yeah. So again, the local authority has to be tough. On island is an issue because many are related with each other. So enforcement is a challenge. All islands. Yeah. All islands. Now, so another area, you have bottles. Langkawi is duty free. There are millions of waste bottles in the waste dump. So, creativity, we make chandelier, we have walls out of bottles. You can actually crush the bottles because they're silica, yeah, you can make bricks with it. So it depends on, the owners themselves, yeah. The current hotel system or the current policy, they should have more incentive for villagers, household to separate their rubbish. Now, it goes back to basic. You must separate your rubbish. Once you separate your rubbish, you can allocate as a resource. So local authority must make it compulsory. If it's not compulsory, very difficult.
Okay. So in the minute that we have left, can I just ask you to your conclusion? What is it that you would like to see prioritized so that we address this growing waste crisis?
Local authority must be proactive to make waste as a major issue.
Okay. Well, Professor, thank you so much for being on the show with me today. That was Professor Anthony Wong from Frangipani Resort and Spa in Langkawi. We're going to take a quick break here and consider this. We'll be back with more. Stay tuned. Hi, welcome back to Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris. Let's continue our discussion about the growing waste management crisis on Malaysia's destination islands. Joining us now is Cher Chua-Lassalvy. She's the Managing Director of Batu Batu Resort in Mersing, Johor, and President of the Tengah Island Conservation. Cher, thank you so much for being on the show with me today. Could you describe for us the current state of waste management on Malaysia's smallest island? Let's take Tengah Island, for example. How would you assess the current situation?
Okay, so Batu Batu is a resort, and we are the only resort on Pulau Tengah off the coast of Malaysia. So really anything around waste management is our responsibility. And any shortcomings are our fault. No, so basically, waste management is split maybe into 2 or 3 categories. Let's say solid waste, which is the things that we throw in the dustbins, sewage and shower water, so grey and black water. That's another waste stream, and then of course on the island we also deal with incoming waste. Which comes in from the sea. So that's marine debris. And unfortunately, that's also something that we have to deal with on the islands that we live on. And I think something that when you live in a town or in mainland, we get so used to and we take for granted the fact that we flush a toilet and it just gets dealt with. We throw something in the dustbin and it just goes away. And when you're on a little island where no one comes to clean things up for you and no one comes to process your shower water and sewage water, then you really need to think about it, right? You need to do something about it. The situation on the little islands is that maybe compared to a larger island like Langkawi, we don't have any systems in place by the local government to actually deal with our waste on our island. So we have to, it falls on us to deal with it ourselves, which is kind of fair enough, I think.
So help me think that through, the responsibility. I know, it's nobody's full responsibility. But for you as a single kind of operator on an island, you're taking on the entire onus, the entire responsibility of waste management. But how do we think about this shared kind of collective responsibility? How would you describe, what would you like to see in terms of the role of local governments in providing a sustainable waste management system?
Actually, I mean, for now, given that we are a tourism operator and we make our revenues basically come from using an island and the beauty of the island, and we are the ones bringing the tourists to the island, I think it's fair enough. We never asked for help initially. I think it's fair enough that we have to deal with our own waste. And that means that we have to separate it, we have to remove it, we have to treat sewage water and all the rest of it. Having said that, we work very closely, actually, more on the NGO side. We work very closely with the local government agencies who are actually really involved in waste management. So we have something called Sustainable Travel Nursing, which is a multi-stakeholder destination coordination group that looks at sustainable tourism in the area. And by sustainable tourism, we look at tourism that doesn't deplete the beauty of our natural assets at the end of the day, right? That's the environmental part is one of the pillars. So I mean, I think that actually one of our team was telling me today that every single community inhabited island in the Johor Marine Park it has a recyclables program, which is either it's always supported by local government and often implemented by an NGO.
Okay.
And actually we are running a project on the next door island, Pulau Besar, and that is with the support of local government and funded by Ministry of Finance and UNDP. So actually the government are getting involved. I think the government have realized that it is a challenge, island waste management.
So talk to me about that, about the kind of ways, you know, we know of the UNDP Malaysian Island Innovation Challenge, which is highlighting the growing waste problem. I wanted to ask you where you see innovation or ways that we can address this problem based on your experience having to deal with all the waste that's generated by your patrons. So how have you done it at Batu Batu, and what do you see as the future of innovation and solutions of other islands in addressing their waste?
Sure. So waste management is really unglamorous. It is, if you look at sewage treatment, right? Sewage treatment is really very important. And I'll tell you a story. In the first couple of years when we first opened, actually in the first few months, sorry, when we opened, we had put our sewage system in place, which is a treatment system, which basically takes the grey and black water and it cleans it. And basically we had a pipe that had opened up. We didn't realize it had opened up. And this is at the soft opening phase where we had kind of very forgiving guests. People started turning on the taps and they realized that their tap water smelt of sewage, right? And so we quickly realized that if your sewage goes into the ground and if you're extracting groundwater from nearby, it's polluted. And that happens on small islands, that happens on big islands, that happens on the planet generally. But little islands are like a microcosm of the earth. And so you see impacts really, really quickly. So in terms of sewage treatment, you have to make sure the system is closed and it has to be treated. The challenge is that treatment systems are generally relatively high tech. or if they're not high tech, and I know Anthony, who is the other guest on here, is big on constructed wetlands. And actually we're building one at the moment because they're more energy efficient than our current. But small islands don't have roads. We don't have, a truck can't just pull up with all the materials you need. So everything just ends up being a massive challenge. And actually, when we've looked at other islands, we've also realized that, you know, sewage treatment plants, when you have multiple resorts, you know, the question then becomes who maintains it? Whose land does the pipe go over? You know, do you have land rights? But it's all so important to be solved because you've got not only human health, so community health. So if most communities are drawing their water from wells, and so if you're drawing water from wells that then is polluted by potentially sewage, that's a big health hazard. And then there's also the reef issue. So your reefs are, reefs don't like sewage. Sewage is like sewage is fertilizer, right? So basically what happens is the algae, it'll make the algae grow, and then the corals will get smothered by algae and they'll die out. And so it's just so important. It's so important that we get this right, but it's really challenging to get it right.
Can I ask you, in your kind of research and observation, looking at other smaller destination islands, what are they doing? Because I'm sure they face the same types of challenges that all small destination islands face. Where do you look for inspiration or ideas or best practices? What do you see around the world that you think is that they're doing right, that you would like to see here in Malaysia?
I think the constructed wetlands and the closed water systems, the biological water systems that we're using, they do work. What I have seen is that sewage systems can be as simple as a concrete culvert in the ground and sewage goes into it and then it just seeps away. I think that's often used that could be used in a small community setting. It's not best practice, I believe, but if you just have one person or two people or a small family, it's not the end of the world. The problem is when you have large numbers of tourists, right? And I don't know if you know the Boracay case in the Philippines, where in 2018 Boracay was closed down because it was just such a huge problem. I think that we are really lucky so far where we are in the Johor Islands because our tourism isn't too large scale. But if that tourism were to become very large scale, then we would need to really accelerate and ensure that everyone who brings tourists in is responsible for looking after their waste.
Right. Well, you're saying this as we are kind of preparing for Visit Malaysia year 2026. So since we are on the cusp of, I think, trying to attract some 35 million tourists, if I'm not mistaken, a huge number like that. What needs to be done now? What needs to be prioritized? And not just in Johor, but in other small destination islands around Malaysia, where we are already seeing the impact of this waste crisis.
Yeah, I think that an important thing, a quick thing to do now, if it's not been done, because I'm not as familiar with some of the other islands out of our state, what needs to be done is a baseline study, a quick stock take of what systems are currently in place and what will happen when X number of tourists arrive. Secondly, when you get the 35 million tourists, my question always is, where are these tourists going to be? If they're all going to be in big cities where the waste management systems already work, then fine. But I think that often there are Malaysia's got so many beautiful spots, right? And the number of people that arrive is going to be limited by the amount of accommodation and the amount of facilities there are. So hopefully there will be hopefully the facilities in place will limit the numbers that come in. and that then the tourists are actually spread into the places where we can handle them, so that Malaysia continues to benefit from tourism, which is important economically, but we don't send them all to the most fragile. We don't send inordinate numbers of tourists to the most fragile places without the facilities to take them.
Definitely. Cher, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing some of your experiences and your insights on this matter. I appreciate your time. Thank you. That was Cher Chua-Lassalvy, President of the Tengah Island Conservation, and that wraps up this episode of Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris, signing off for the evening. Thank you so much for watching, and good night.